to AutoSave. My name is Camille Salazar-Hadaway, and I'm joined with my co-host, with the mostest, Mr. Nicholas Andrade.
Going for the Nicholas today. Wow.
I did.
All right.
I did. I was like, you know what? We're on that first name basis, so Nick is very casual, but I think we should be a little more formal sometimes.
It's true. I mean, I do call you Camille in the intros.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's what I'm saying. We're first name.
Yeah.
But we could have done you next time could be like Camille Salazar or like Camille Danassi and Salazar Hadaway. Just throw out all my names.
No, I don't know if I want to go through all of those names. I only have one middle name.
That's true. Well, we'll just call you Nicholas Andrade. How about that?
That sounds good.
Nick, how are you doing today? Because it's a good one, I feel like, are we halfway through now, Spider-Man?
I don't really know what the timeline is. We should be this is episode 8. We should be over half, but there's just so much going on that I have no idea.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think we're over half, about half. Who's keeping track when you're having a good time? Because we are having a good time. And on last week's episode, a lot happened.
He got away from us. It's good, Pete. I saved the tracker. Let's go, man, before he gets too far.
No. He's mine.
You sure? He's got big teeth.
So do I.
He's not normally like that, right?
No. He's never like that.
We search for Dr. Connors at his home and learn that he already had become the Lizard. Miles decided to use his friend robot to stop some robbers from stealing musical instruments from the Harlem Cultural Center. And we finally caught up with Dr. Connors, who transformed into the Lizard, which meant boss battle. And I think that delivered in every sense. We were very satisfied with that. What we weren't satisfied with is, Peter. And Peter's little attitude with Dr. Connors once he was transformed back to Dr. Connors and was ready to cure, but more help Peter with the symbiote to get the suit off, because Dr. Connors expressed the urgency because it is an alien suit. And Peter, or the symbiote, they are one now, didn't quite like it and got a little frisky.
Nope.
Would frisky be the word? They did. They put their hands on Dr. Connors. I didn't like that.
Frisky, is that the word to use?
I don't know. It
Handsy?
sounds a little spicy.
Yeah.
They got a little handsy. I don't know what's worse,
handsy.
frisky or handsy. Handsy's a little bad.
Handsy sounds worse than frisky, actually. Yeah, you're right.
All right. Okay. Well, in this week's episode, we are going to be picking up right from Peter's outlash with Dr. Connors and see really how the suit is affecting him and maybe his other relationships that we talked about. But before we get to that, Nick, question of the day.
Woo!
Which I realize I did not write down in the script, so you have no idea what it is. Usually you have some sense.
Whoa, this is our first ever surprise question of the day.
Surprise! Well, okay. Nick, with this Spider-Man game, Spider-Man 2, how they marketed the game, we've talked about it. We know Venom is making an appearance at some point, right? That is the whole thing. Venom is here.
Yes.
But if we were to write another Spider-Man game, it doesn't necessarily need to follow up from the events of this game, and it had a collaboratory, nature to it, where the game featured Spider-Man and some other either hero or villain, who would it be, and how would you see that play out?
I feel like the obvious choice is Green Goblin, Norman Osborn.
Okay, yeah.
We've seen Norman as
You're
a
going
regular
for the
guy.
classic. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going for the classic. But I mean, realistically, what I really want is multiverse stuff. That's what I really want. Okay, I want to see Madam Web type Spider-Man stuff with many Spider-Man and women.
Yeah. So like you want all the spider people, Madam Web, to be like, hey, what up? And it's like kind of just like another Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse type of deal.
Oh yeah.
So 2 classic answers.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
what
you know what? I mean, I like your answers. I think there's a reason why we love to go back to those moments of Green Goblin, as well as obviously the Spider-Verse. But for me, I was more thinking something a little classic, but not classic to me, but not to anyone else, because like I have huge familiarity, and from going to the Game Awards and seeing that there's now a Blade game in the works.
Yes.
I would love to see that whole Spider-Man arc. Remember from the 90s cartoon where they were talking about vampires and then Blade shows up?
Yes. Yes.
I would love to see that. I would love Blade to just come in, and Blade would obviously have to be voiced from Wesley Snipes, by Wesley Snipes. There's no other Spider-Man until I see Mahershala Ali do it, you know, or Blade. There, you know, I need to see Wesley Snipes voice Blade in this rendition. Mm-hmm. And then I would also, oh my gosh, now I'm trying to remember. Oh, what's the vampire's name?
Morbius.
Oh yeah, I think I blanked out Morbius because of the movie, but I would like to see like Morbius, but like a real Morbius, not like the live action Morbius, you know?
Yes, Morbius, Blade. I think Punisher could be in there, and Daredevil. Those are 4 characters that are all kind of interconnected that I feel like would work really well in a Spider-Man game.
Yeah, like I just want to see more of like the like horror, or like it's like another genre of like Marvel comic books where you have like this darker side of like vampires, the werewolf, like that whole monsters side of things of Marvel's just come into the mainstream Spider-Man experience. Like, could you imagine having to take down vampires with Blade in a video game?
I think that would be insanely cool. And then maybe because there's a Blade game coming out, it would be a crossover event where we could play with Spider-Man in a Blade game and then also with Blade in the Spider-Man game. That would be sick.
All right. Well, you know, we're going to see if we can make, we're going to have to call up Insomniac, be like, hey, we have these amazing ideas that probably don't make sense for game development, but they're great ideas. No. Let's make it happen. I'm pretty sure they won't pick up our calls. They don't know us. But you know what? We want to know your rendition. So let us know in our Discord. But for now, Nicholas, it is time to dive back into Spider-Man 2 to figure out what the heck is going on with Peter. And are we getting closer to that point? Is Venom just around the corner? Well, we'll see right after this break.
Saw the news about the lizard chase.
I'm great. Connors is cured, the suit's still going strong, and apparently is called a symbiote. Oh, and it's an alien, which is pretty nuts, right?
Wait, what? You don't sound concerned.
I'm a little concerned, but I also couldn't have stopped Connors without it.
Peter, the 2 of you tore through half the city. Like, did you see what you did to the museum? I'm honestly surprised nobody got killed.
I'm not. And you know I had to cure him somehow. I mean, should I have just let him keep destroying things on his own?
That's not the... I'm gonna work here for the rest of the night. My muse for a new Jonah-proof article has finally struck. Maybe I'll have something to show you if you come back later.
What's gotten into her? Must be deadline stress. Some alone time should help. So, in the meantime, let's see who we can help out here.
Seems like Peter and MJ's relationship may be straining a bit. You talked about this last time, Nick. How, you think that's the relationship that obviously Peter has a lot to lose, but could be most impactful because, like, they're they have a deeper bond, right? Than Miles or Harry. So do you think this is hinting at maybe a little trouble between the two of them?
Definitely, especially at the end there where she kind of just was like, okay, I'm going to stop talking about this and say I'm working late. Seems like it's going to strain something, but just the way he's talking about all this stuff, you're forgetting, buddy, that Harry is sick. And it just seems like it's almost like a breath of relief that he has like a new like outlook on life. And it's like, well, that's probably not good,
Yeah.
because everything that just happened and you're kind of just happy about it.
Yeah, he thinks mission complete, and it's like, yeah, but at what cost? Like it's so much destruction. And I think we talked about last time with like we could see little hints of the symbiote like taking control of Peter and like what it's saying or how you see it's handling saving some of the civilians. It's just kind of Peter's just kind of throwing people on the floor as opposed to like nicely placing them. But even here, right? Like I think you still see Peter is still there. It's not completely the symbiote yet, because his first reaction is just to brush it off as deadline stress rather than to just blame MJ. So I think like we're slowly getting to like maybe bigger problems for their relationship, but we're gonna have to like wait and see what that looks like. One thing after this moment, though, you hear Danica come on to give her inside scoop of what she feels is going on with the new Spider-Man. And again, raises these concerns. So you know that it's not just MJ, but it is this a good, bit of the city that now may see Spider-Man in a different light since he got the new suit.
Everyone seems to be scared of it.
Scared of it, scared of the aggression. But you know what? Peter has been up to a lot. And when you're up to a lot, Nick, you got to catch up on those Z's. So Peter heads home to take a nap.
That's the story I was telling you about. I wanted to get your thoughts.
Looks amazing, MJ. Can't wait to read it.
Wait, you're still in the suit. I thought Connors was gonna help you get it off. What about Harry?
Sorry, can we do this tomorrow? Just so beat from Lizard Wrangling.
So it seems like the hunters have arrived at Aunt May's house, where we find MJ is finishing up or working on that story that she wants Peter to see, but obviously he is way too tired. Which, you know what? I don't blame Peter for that. He's been up to a lot.
Yeah.
So I get it. Spider people get tired too. Take a nap, take a break, take a snooze. My favorite part about this scene, while Peter's falling asleep and, you hear MJ express her concern that Peter's still in the suit as he falls asleep. The suit like tucks him in.
Yeah.
The symbiote just like grabs the covers and like pulls up the blankets and tucks him in. It's hilarious. And like Insomniac puts these little like touches of humor in there because there are some funny moments with Venom, no matter what iteration. So I love that they were able to bring that out of the symbiote.
Yeah, it feels very much like a Tom Hardy Venom movie type symbiote, which I'm all for. But I gotta counter his sleep thing. He seems so like he didn't even think about Harry at all in the situation. Like he's just like, Dr. Connors saved him. Now I'm gonna get some sleep. And oh, Harry, you're dying. Meh, whatever.
Yeah. Well, he didn't say whatever. He was just really tired. Have you never been that, like, because that's one thing, you know, you hear about these superheroes, but when do superheroes sleep in their double lives? You know, if it's by day, they are Peter Parker, and by night, it's Spider-Man. Where's the room for sleep? So I would just fall asleep in an instant with any time I get.
Okay, I'll give you that, but still think. Also, you're wearing the symbiote. That should like he doesn't even need sleep. It'll just regenerate yourself anyway.
Oh, you does the symbiote need sleep?
No, I think
Does
it did. I think
something
that's why it like forced Peter asleep because it needs to like heal or something. I don't know. That's my guess.
All right. Okay. Well, the hunters arrive, and because Peter was sleeping, MJ noticed that the hunters are like taking out the lights because I guess cover and they're all about camouflage. So if there's no lights out, it's easier for them to be sneaky. But when she looks back, she sees Peter's now gone. So when she calls for help, he left. He just up and left, but didn't reassure her. Like, hide MJ, didn't say anything, just left. So Peter right now, maybe because of the symbiote, maybe because he's tired, is just not communicating with MJ properly at all.
No, and again, it's going to cause issues with these two.
Now, one thing I have to ask, hunters do arrive at Aunt May's house. Does Craven and the hunters know who Peter is?
Oh yeah, you kind of put that two and two together, wouldn't you? Like, who owns this house? Oh, a man named Peter Parker, and he's at that house. Okay, yeah, I didn't even think about that, but wow, he's not covering his tracks well at all.
Well, he may be, because remember, Craven does so much research into the things he wants to hunt, right? So I feel like it's very easy. He had a tracker on Peter before, right? He probably put another tracker and just saw that Spider-Man kept going back to this house and was like, oh, let me put two and two together. Spider-Man's his kid.
Which was I feel like that would cause him even worse problems if he knows his true identity.
But you know what? We actually don't see much of Peter Parker these days, right? We're seeing lots of Spider-Man. So it may not cause that much trouble, but this is screaming danger for the neighborhood, especially as you now take over as MJ, who has to sneak around Aunt May's house because the hunters have made their way inside and they're looking around for everything. And luckily for you, you have your trusty saber taser.
Thank God.
The saber taser. And you have to kind of use that because Peter's not here. We don't know where Peter is. So we have to avoid or stun the hunters. And when I mean stun, you stun them also to take them down. There are a lot of hunters. Mm-hmm. How did you handle sneaking around the house? Because I know you're not that good at stealth.
No, I'm not. I'm not great at stealth gameplay. I think I've been getting better over time, but I still don't think I'm the greatest at it. When you play as MJ again, like my eyes rolled a bit, like, oh God. And then on top of that, you think these hunters are supposed to be like world renowned hunters. And MJ is just wiping the floor with these fools. So I find that aspect funny. But with the saber taser, honestly, her gameplay feels really nice. I don't mind it. The stealth situation kind of annoying a little bit, but she does a great job fighting these hunters that it honestly feels really free flowing gameplay. And I enjoy it, to be honest.
I do too. I think it's like, it's also because you have to like listen to their sound to kind of gather the area that they're in so you could avoid. And I think when you go through the house, you go through the basement and then you escape outside, or you go to the basement, you see Peter's workbench where he creates his web shooters. Yep. And you could actually do an upgrade. Well, it prompts the upgrade for the saber taser, where you have web shooters now a part of that. No, this doesn't mean that, MJ is going to be swinging around, because that would have been really weird if they did that. But it's kind of cool that she has like these web shooters to stick enemies to nearby objects in their environment. And I think that little like touch made this MJ mission feel different enough than previous MJ's missions. So I appreciated that.
It seems like they really spent time to make sure that the MJ missions were enjoyable like this. And yeah, the web slinging on top of it with the gun makes it that much more sweeter.
It is sweeter. It is sweeter. And it gets sweeter because we make our way outside and Peter finally shows up. We thought MJ was wiping the floor with the enemy. Peter's outside just throwing them around. And he just like kind of swings in, like takes like a few out. And then MJ's like, okay, I'm going to keep making my way through this neighborhood. So that's what Peter does. That's what MJ does. And you see Peter kind of in the background, just here and there pop up and take down enemies. Again, I love these moments where you're taking control of one character and then you see another in the background with like action moments like this. But also, as you make your way through the neighborhood and you're sneaking around all of these hunters in the neighborhood, there's one particular house where a neighbor looks outside of MJ, like where MJ is, and is just like, "What are you doing? What are you doing sneaking outside the house?" And MJ's trying to quiet her down, and she's like, don't tell me to be quiet." And then, of course, the hunters kind of wreak havoc, and then MJ tells her to go inside. But I thought that was funny.
Such a awesome touch.
Because where are the neighbors, right? Where are the other neighbors?
Exactly.
When all these hunters show up, no one called 911.
It's just like you never see a character go to the bathroom, right? It's the same thing. You never see the neighbors, but it's fun to see these little interactions.
Well, the interactions continue between MJ and Peter as we make our way through the construction area. We see that MJ kind of stumbles across Peter aggressively, like beating up one of the hunters, like just so aggressive. I think probably broke a few bones.
Yep.
For this hunter, and then he takes off, and that has MJ concerned, where she calls Miles, and he just so happens to be swooping in on the scene as she calls him, and he gets caught up on everything that's been happening with Peter's situation.
Miles!
Look up!
Go after him!
Sorry I'm late. The hell's going on with Pete?
He's not himself. I think it has something to do with that suit. It's called a symbiote, and it's an alien.
What? Like he's wearing an alien?
Just help him, Miles. Please.
I'm on it, MJ. I'm on it. Spider-Man! It's me!
So as Miles shows up, it's now that he doesn't only have to deal with the hunters, he also has to deal with a Spider-Man that is attacking him as well with the manhole cover. And, at this point, you have to fight down a bunch of enemies, but then you're also seeing Peter again, just aggressively taking out some enemies and also aiming things at you, or if you get in the way. So it's not like he's like trying to attack you. It's just if you try to stop him from doing whatever he's doing. Like, so if you get in his, or Miles gets in his way, then he's like, it's like, okay, well, stop talking and I'm going to beat you up. But MJ is really determined through this all to snap Peter out of it, and believes that if she gets some alone time with Peter, she will be able to help him through this and save him. So she asks Miles to seal her and Peter in a nearby tunnel to give them a chance to talk without the hunters interrupting them. And Peter's a little hesitant, or Miles is a little hesitant with this because of how Peter is, and Peter clearly is not himself, and is, Miles is concerned for MJ's safety, but MJ's determined, so that's what Miles does. And they switch up the vibe here when you're in the tunnel, because it does shift back to MJ as you take control of her, and the tunnel is dark, but you know that Peter's in there, but he's like growling, it's like a horror movie, and you're trying to find Peter, and he just like scatters and growls and runs away. And I love this element of like, again, bringing out, similar to the lizard mission, how they incorporated a little bit of horror when Miles was looking around. They have that here and just amped it up a bit.
This, though, realistically sounds like a horrible idea. If I was Miles, I would not let that happen. Like, regardless of MJ saying, oh, like, I'll be able to talk to him, let me handle this. Have you seen the symbiote and what it's been doing? I don't think Peter's in the right mind right now. He might be a little sleepy, a little groggy. I don't know if you can actually talk sense into him. So good luck, MJ, but I think this is a bad idea.
Probably a bad idea. Also, is the growling the fact that, like, is he maybe in a struggle with the symbiote suit? Because I'm like, why is he growling so much? There's no hunters. Why are you growling, Peter?
Yeah, maybe. I think it might be so tired that the symbiote is just taking control right now. That's my guess, at least.
So he's like, shut off all the lights.
It's
I'm
too
gonna
bright.
sleep. You're interrupting my sleep.
Yeah.
Well, probably. That's probably exactly what's going on. Well, MJ heads deeper into the tunnel. There's a point where a chainsaw drops. I think it's a chainsaw. It's not a jackhammer. I think it's a chainsaw. It drops and it hits like metal piping. Because again, this is a construction zone, and again, makes a high-pitched sound that we know the symbiote does not like at all. So it starts reacting, and MJ, like, for MJ to see Peter in this, it's a lot different than if we were to see this happen, to someone else that was wearing the suit, because she has that deep connection. So she wants to help him out because she clearly sees that he's in pain, and she cuts off the chainsaw, only to have Peter like look at her in the like scariest way possible. Like, this is now where Peter is starting to look like the monster in a horror movie, a villain, and he goes to attack her. They really like this moment because there's a huge pause and then they're staring back and forth. I kind of liked how they put this as a real, like, I think a point of discovery for MJ to see, like, show her that she's not able to get through to Peter.
Yeah, it looks almost like when he stares at her, he's not even seeing her. He just sees her as, like, I don't know, an enemy, something like that. So he's clearly too far gone, which is kind of scary in this situation because I don't really understand what's going on in terms of, is he actually going to attack MJ? I don't know. It's like, it just seems like the symbiote, whatever happens, it's happening too fast at this point because now MJ's in trouble.
Yeah. Well, he does try to attack MJ, but it kind of falters and he ends up getting knocked out, which allows MJ to see the suit up close. And when that happens, the like face of the suit disappears, so you see Peter, which is weird. I don't know exactly like why it did that at that moment, but MJ noticed something in that moment.
Any updates, MJ? How's everything going in there?
I found Peter, but he's asleep.
Is that good?
I'm gonna try to wake him. Can you hold off the hunters for a little while longer?
I'll try.
So Peter has been sleeping this whole time. That's what MJ sees when the head of the suit is removed or like kind of rolls back. You see Peter is still sleeping. So he's in a deep sleep. And this is completely the symbiote doing all of this. Which, we talked about, like, why is the symbiote, like, so tired? It's just so tired. But instead, it was actually a tactic. And now that explains why it was tucking Peter in so politely.
And yeah, everything makes sense now in terms of what was going on here. The symbiote is in total control while Peter sleeps, which I think is a pretty cool thing I didn't even think about, is he kind of just lets go, right? So his mind is free, and then the symbiote is able to completely take control. And then at the same time, though, taking out hunters, there is still some sort of protection here. And I know he tried to attack MJ, but he still knows who the bad guys are in his case. It's not like he's going after everybody. He was really specifically mostly going after the hunter. So it is interesting to think about that I don't think the symbiote is necessarily evil, if that makes sense. It just might.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah, I honestly think the symbiote's whole purpose is to survive and to thrive. So what does it need to do in those moments to do so? That doesn't make it necessarily evil. I don't think it has evil intentions. I just think it's an alien species that is looking to be safe and then also to expand. But I think that's a whole topic for another day. But that's exactly where I think the symbiote is just trying to protect Peter.
That's fair, but I think the symbiote is also trying to get control of Peter. And I think, when you talk about like, there's some sense of like not wanting to hurt MJ or wanting to protect people. I think the symbiote, it reacts to its host, right? So my theory is how it works. It's like trying to take control of the host, like trying to become one with the host. And in order to do that, it has to use like the subconscious thoughts of the host in order to help it like become one with its host. Because like I think the symbiote, like you said, wants to survive, but it is also an alien species that probably it has its own sense of what survival means than what Peter may think survival means. And I think if Peter is feeling like it has to protect MJ, those barriers are put up when Peter is awake that don't allow the symbiote to maybe fully do that in the way that the symbiote would do it, which would be very aggressive. So in order to allow the symbiote to take more control, I think it just needs Peter, like you said, to let those walls fall, and then it completely seeps into Peter's, I think, a subconscious, and uses that to help them become one. But then like when you even hear Peter, like with Dr. Connors, like what he said about you want to destroy us, I think that was the symbiote, right? That was clearly the symbiote. And I think it had control in that moment, but it's kind of like an on and off switch unless the host and the symbiote are like one, like are connected as
right.
one.
That makes a lot of sense.
Then it's like the symbiote doesn't really have a voice. It's kind of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing.
That does make sense. However, too, I think the human inside definitely starts to believe what the symbiote is selling over time too, right?
Yes.
So how far gone Peter is, that's the question.
Well, you know what? This is no good news for Miles, who is still outside of the tunnel trying to take down the hunters that are out there. And Miles ends up getting just overwhelmed by a bunch of hunters, because then he sees that there's a construction worker on a crane and the hunters just made it fall. So he ends up jumping to save this construction worker, only to find out it was a hunter in disguise, and the hunter actually injects some sort of poison into Miles to knock him out. And then we see Craven has arrived on the scene with some more hunters of his and is trying to make his way into the tunnel to get to Peter. What did you think of this, like, surprise, I'm a hunter?
Just like give us some resting time here, Craven buddy. Like, we're already dealing with something here. And of course, this guy shows up every time at the most inopportune moment. He's just like, it's like, especially too, it's like you go through a long battle or something, and then Craven shows up. He's always after you're like tired of doing something. And he's like, here's Craven. All right, buddy. It's like, this guy's the most renowned hunter in the world. And he's always like, I need the most strongest people to fight. And who are these people? I need you to give it your all. But then he always like comes out at their weakest points. It's like, I don't get it. He's like, I'm going to get the scorpions, the cure for scorpion stinger and stuff like that. It's like, does that really count, man? And then again, you show up when we're at our weakest moment. So it's just like, buddy boy, get out of here. I think you're a fraud, bud.
What do you
want?
What I'm saying. You want an authentic
he's
fight?
A fraud. He's a fraud.
Yeah, exactly. He's a you
Don't
think
tell
he's
him
a
I said
fraud?
that.
He may find out. My thing is like, yeah, I just don't know with the hunters. Also, this guy that like disguises himself as a construction worker, is he doing this while Miles is fighting the other hunters? He's like, oh my gosh, I have the best idea. I'm gonna put on this construction jacket and then go up on this crane and act like I'm a civilian that needs help. Like, when does he
Yeah,
do
that
this?
was that was so ridiculous. Actually, and he's like, did he have a New York accent too? I wasn't even sure. I don't even remember.
No, he had like the rest of the hunters
Help me,
accent.
Spider-Man! Help me, please!
That, yeah.
It is actually me.
Help me. Oh yeah, actually I think you're right. He did have like a
Yeah,
New Yorker accent before.
I think he tried.
Yeah.
He tried his acting skills.
Do they have like, yeah, like does the hunters do acting classes so then
Maybe.
they could also just you're learning new things every time with these hunters. Well, back in the tunnel, MJ tries to tase Peter in order to get the suit off, and it doesn't go well because even though Peter was knocked out, he definitely wakes up when he gets tased, and he does not like that MJ tased him. So he goes into survival mode and pretty much tells MJ to run and starts chasing her through this tunnel. This was like such a cool moment of like running away from Peter because it like just was the cherry on top of the horror sundae in the scene.
I was scared, and the your adrenaline is pumping. You're afraid at every corner, but again, it felt like a different genre for a second, so it was really cool.
It was really cool. All right, well, MJ, like you said, just keeps getting thrown in these horrible situations, but you know what? She finds her way through, and she ends up surviving this one as well, or almost doesn't survive it. It was a very close call with her, but thankfully she does survive, barely.
We searched the whole tunnel. He is gone.
For now. But he will come to me soon enough.
Miles is gone, taken by Craven, and Peter's napping on a bench, completely unaware of all the events that happened the night before. Like, this moment when it came up, I was like, but Miles, where's Miles? Yeah. I'm like, Peter, ask where Miles is. Peter, look at the text that MJ has sent you, all the calls, all the texts, and you just swipe that away and ignore it. Maybe she's asking about Miles. Peter, Miles. And again, no love for Miles. It's like, what's going on, Peter? But, you know, he does fall asleep on this bench and wakes up feeling recharged and great. And Insomniac did a little nod here to Spider-Man 3, the Spider-Man 3 movie, where Peter is now wearing all black. In this moment, I guess it's the suit because we know the suit can change. So Peter's wearing all black and his sleeves are rolled up. And it was the first time I actually saw his web shooters because I was like, oh, is he wearing like a watch on one and then a bracelet on another, but it's his web shooters? And like the confidence that Peter is showing in this moment, you know, he decides to like quickly text. I think he like quickly texts MJ, but doesn't complete it or something like that. We don't really see who he is texting, and then he ends up checking his voicemail, and he's just walking on the bench, like he stands up on it. That's like a no. You never stand on a bench.
Is it a no? I didn't know that.
Peter? Who stands on a bench? People sit there. Would you put your dirty shoes where people sit? Nick, oh my God, are you one of those people?
I get it. I just never thought of it like that. Like, you don't put your shoes on a park bench.
No.
I guess too, it's like a train or
don't be
you never put your feet up in public transit or something like that. I get it.
So I was just like, yeah, instead of the dancing, we didn't get the dancing like you do in Spider-Man 3 movie, but the Spider-Man 3 movie, but you get him defying public norms by standing on this bench. Speaking of MJ, as Peter continues to go to Harry, because we know Harry really wants his suit back, and Peter even voices maybe he doesn't need the suit, which is you're seeing that shift again, probably as a result of the symbiote. Peter gets a notification that MJ's article that she was working on the night before was published, and he's really excited until he sees the article, and it's pretty much painting a negative light on Spider-Man and asking what's going on with Spider-Man. Pretty much everything that Danica has been saying about like noticing these changes. That's what the article is about. And now I'm thinking, wait, did she plagiarize? Did she just steal Danica's story and put it in the Daily Bugle?
No, she didn't do that. But I think it's just Peter is like, wow, she actually wrote a bad critical story about me. How could she do this? And then again, he woke up on a park bench. Clearly doesn't care that he woke up on a park bench. He's just like, wow, my nap was so amazing. It's like, buddy, you were literally out in public. Then he's like, ooh, let me check my phone. Ooh, oh, that's a weird message I have. Oh, MJ wrote a bad article to me about me. Like, he's literally, his head is in the sky right now. I don't even think he's definitely thinking about anything right now.
He's not thinking about anything. He doesn't know what's going on, but all he knows is that he wants to keep the suit. And I think he's maybe going to Harry's to tell him that. We're going to have to see what he's going to talk to Harry about.
Hey, buddy. How you feeling?
I need that suit back.
Pete. What do you remember about last night?
I just remember feeling tired.
Pete. You're not yourself. That suit is changing you.
This suit is the only reason I'm still alive.
Yeah, it's pretty great, isn't it?
Why don't you pop some more pills and say what you're really feeling?
Hey, don't.
I'm busting my ass out there trying to save you, and this is what I get?
I said don't.
I saw your story.
I tried to tell you about that.
Yeah, but you didn't, did you?
I can't lose this job,
Your
Pete.
job is to write the truth.
I did.
The truth is, I'm the hero here, not you.
So firstly, I think Harry may already be dead because Harry is gray. Like, you see Harry, and Harry, I don't think has any blood circulating in his skin right now because he is so gray, so sickly. So it's definitely not looking good for Harry or his friendship with Peter, because Peter isn't really interested in understanding that Harry is on the brink of death right now. Like, it has progressed so bad. And I guess this really shows us as well how bad his sickness was before he found this, cure essentially in the suit. It progresses so rapidly. I was actually shocked at how bad he looked.
Yeah, this sickness. Again, I still don't understand why it didn't cure the sickness entirely wearing the symbiote suit, but it can cure a bunch of other things. But yeah, he has deteriorated so quickly over time, and I feel really bad for him, especially now. He didn't take Connor's advice, Peter, and now his friend is like, again, his skin, like you said, his skin looks so pale and gray, and he could be like days from death, and we have no idea. But
We have no idea at all. And he's using a cane, so he's really having a hard time at this moment. But during this exchange between Peter and Harry, where Peter, like, that was a huge burn. Like, why don't you just take more pills and tell me what you really think? Like, Peter is not really standing for any of Harry's concern or health. And I think it's because he's really protective over the suit right now and doesn't want to give it back, essentially. Similar to how with Dr. Connors, he didn't want the suit destroyed. Like, he's very protective over the suit, and we're seeing that. That's when MJ comes in, and again, he gets more aggressive towards MJ, this time more verbal, because of her story. And we see that the trauma that MJ had with Peter in the previous scene in the tunnel has impacted her, because she reaches for her taser as soon as she sees Peter. So I wonder, like, even MJ going through this situation, if she sees Peter in a different light, even though she knows it's the suit.
Yeah, I think this is going to really impact their relationship moving forward. Whatever happens, I still think this is not good. It's not good.
We see Peter leave Harry's room, and he stumbles across Norman, who is tirelessly working on another cure to help Harry. He's clearly frustrated. And that's when Peter goes in, and Norman has this exchange with Peter that lets him know that he really cares for Peter as a person and is really proud of him. I thought this was so weird because we've never seen Norman express any concern for Peter. Emily May Foundation was totally in Rex, and he never once said, "Peter, are you okay?" When he like goes into the Emily May Foundation for the first time and sees that the office is completely wrecked, he doesn't even acknowledge Peter. So to me, is this just Norman is so like lost in this moment that he's just reaching out for any help, or do you think he knows something?
I honestly don't think he knows anything. I think he's just a prick. That's straight up like how I feel about him. Again, maybe he has information. Again, we haven't even talked about the opening scene of the game where we thought it was a dream, maybe that Harry got the symbiote from Norman, but it seems like it's real. But what exactly? What's going down? So I don't know what he knows, but I feel like he's just an asshole.
Or if that's the case, when we think about that opening scene, if Harry got the suit from Norman, is that an after effect of wearing the suit for a while? Like, was Norman wearing the suit for a while, and like this, just him being a jerk is an after effect of wearing that suit? Maybe.
I don't know. He also like the whole game of Spider-Man 1, like there was a reason why Lee hated his guts so much, so I think he's just always been like that. But I was holding out hope that he was Venom, which I still am thinking he might be. Maybe
he can be one day. Well, you know who's not a fan of this like conversation? Harry. Harry does not like Peter and Norman talking like this. I think there's a bit of jealousy here. Peter has the suit. He's all healthy. He's a superhero. Harry was on the brink of that until it was taken away from him. And now he sees like his father really tormented with the situation and being able to get closer to Peter. I think like there's just a lot of frustration on Harry's side.
Well, yeah, he's dying.
Fair. But do you think he should get mad? Like, even if I was dying, I would like to think I wouldn't get mad at seeing like my parents like have this close relationship with a close friend of mine.
I just think it's the moment he's in right now. I think he's probably in huge despair.
Okay.
So everything that's going on, I think this doesn't help the case.
There's a lot going on, and Peter ends up leaving and gets a call from Miles's mom. And let's just say Peter's rude.
Thanks, Tam. Miles! I've been calling you. For hours. Nothing. You know Miles has been hunting Lee.
I'll find him.
I'm calling the hospital.
I said I'd find him. I've got this under control.
All Miles talks about is how to be a better Spider-Man. Not school, not his friends. How to help you. Go help him.
Such a rude exchange between Miles. Between Miles's mom and Peter. Peter's just like, again, the effects of the suit is just not having him think. Again, no concern for Miles, which I'm really questioning. Is that the suit or is that Peter? Because he wasn't picking up Peter, like Miles's call from the first bit. But that's another story. And we, even with this lecture, like, it's just like nothing is getting through to Peter at all. And that takes us to Miles' perspective. So we finally get caught up with Miles where he is. He's locked up in a cage because obviously he was taken away by Kraven. And you have to escape this lockup. And in the process, you see other prison cells. And this is where the other villains that were missing were. So I guess we're in the Hunter's main base, right, Nick?
Yeah, this must be the Hunter's main base. This is probably Kraven's hideout. I feel like they have many hideouts, but this seems like the main one, just by all the cages that you see not holding prisoners, but you see that they were holding prisoners. And all I know is, Peter, if I got scolded by Miles' mom, I'd feel so bad. So even if I had the symbiote, I'd come rescue you instantly. So you better hurry up, bud, because I think Miles is in trouble.
It's also important to know all the cells are empty. So I'm guessing they're all dead.
Yep.
Given what we know about Scorpion, which, eek. But we do have to continue through, and there's only one path forward.
Okay. What's going on? This is... Okay.
There's no escape.
I tried.
I expected you sooner. Where is the energy of youth, huh? Fight
To the death.
or die here together.
So how many people did you kill before I got here?
I didn't have a choice.
You always have a choice.
You always have a choice. And Kraven's choice, as we learn while we're making our way to this moment, is to stalk Peter. We hear Kraven actually talk about that this is going to be his last hunt again, and how he's just kind of obsessed with Peter, especially in the black suit. But what's even more messed up than that is not only did Kraven capture Miles, he's now putting Miles in a head-to-head fight with I would say Miles is like arch nemesis, or like,
Yeah.
Miles is Joker to his Batman, kind of thing. So do we think that Craven knows, like, did his research on Miles to know? Because before, when we saw Craven, he wasn't too concerned with Miles at all. So I feel like it just like is coincidence that it is Mr. Negative.
Yeah, I don't think he knows. I think Mr. Negative might be the only surviving bad guy left that hasn't died, and I think it looks like he's been put he's been put against, or sorry, he's been pit against multiple people, and he's come out on top, and this is just another one. And then also Craven knows that he is Spider-Man, that maybe Peter will come and try to rescue him. So that's his plan on top of that. Whether he dies or not is no concern of his. That's just Peter knows that's probably the last location that he is, so he'll come trying to look for him. In the meantime, let's pit these two against each other and see a nice battle. But for Miles' sake, this is everything, not everything he wanted, but what a way for all this to happen. He's been looking and searching for Lee all this time and is now right in front of him. He didn't have to find him at all, just came out of nowhere, and now he has to fight him. So, wow. He just put up against, like, I can't even imagine what his emotions are right now at this point.
So many emotions. You can't even imagine. And I can't either, because it's like you're also hearing Craven talk about how you're not worthy to fight him. Like, how bad is that as Spider-Man? And like a villain's like, you're not worthy to fight me. Prove your worthiness. Yeah, like, it's like, wait, what? I'm just trying to stop you and you don't even want to fight me?
He's still young too, so it's okay. I can understand why.
It's okay. But this does trigger a Mr. Negative boss battle. We finally have the moment where we see Miles and Mr. Negative go head to head. How'd you feel about this?
This fight is so fun. This is one of the most fun fights. It took me out of that experience. It felt like a whole different game. This boss fight. It just like, it took you to a new place, looked sick. And I felt like I was in like a Final Fantasy game or something like that.
Yeah, it does look like a fantasy game because we're reminded of the extravagant powers of Mr. Negative and how, and it's especially, what were they called? The demons? Yeah, the demons. And like how they use like the suits to, or how he uses like the mask to really make that come to life. You have different waves of this as well. You have the attacks where he uses his sword and negative energy to either go horizontal swipes or vertical, and you have to like dodge it. For some reason, I was having the hardest time with the horizontal swipes. I think I just was not timing my swings appropriately. Yeah. But then it goes into this moment where after you beat him down a bit, he then goes into your mind, or Miles's mind, and you have to kind of battle him in there. But there's these cutscenes of family members. Well, not cutscenes. There's like these moments where family members show up because we are in Miles's mind, and you're hearing his friends, his mother, go through, I guess, voicing the insecurities that Miles has with his relationships with each of them. And I was like, man, like with Miles Morales, like that game, I completely forgot about that element of Mr. Negative, that I'm like, oh no, like I'm feeling like Miles may be close to a breakdown, because like that's a lot of emotion is being brought up.
I'm putting my chips on the table to say, I feel like because of everything that Peter is going through, Miles is going to have a triumphant end to this. So I wasn't thinking at the time of this boss battle, I knew that Miles was going to come out on top, because I feel like he has to, because Peter and what he's going through with the symbiote, like they need Miles in this situation to be the strong one. So in my thought process, he's going to fight off all of these negative emotions, and it's going to help him grow as a character. On the other hand, too, I want to mention, I've never really understood what Mr. Negative's powers were, because I don't know too much about Mr. Negative. I kind of had to do some research on him in the past. But now I like to see this boss fight because it really you get a great insight into what his actual powers are. And they almost feel Mysterio-esque. I know that Mysterio, his powers are all illusion, and they're not necessarily powers, they're just illusions. This is real, but it still has that kind of take in that person's mind. It's a mind F is what I want to call it. So I see this aspect, and it really goes through Miles' mind and everything that he's feeling and all his emotions. And it just reminds me of how Mysterio kind of gains advantage against his enemies.
Yeah, it's definitely messing with the mind and going layer by layer. And we see those layers get pulled back again and again. Again, started with his friends, those visions, then his mom. And then Mr. Negative pulls the dad card, shows up in Miles's mind, that vision of his dad. And Miles has to chase his dad through this world for that final moment in his mind with Mr. Negative. And you hear Mr. Negative like say, I already have everything I want. Like, I'm good. Like, we can leave your mind, because I took that as like he now knows like how to defeat Miles, because Mr. Negative's learning as he's going through Miles's mind, like what could really get at him. And to me, like, man, I'm just hoping Miles does not go on the bad choice and actually make a mistake and kill Lee, because it's a lot of torment, and you're just seeing Mr. Negative just one after the other, blow after blow, just driving that emotional knife into Miles's heart.
Yeah, I'm scared because I don't want him to kill Lee, because I feel like that's going to create a whole new snowball effect. And again, I'm just not here for it because there's too much going on in this game. I need Miles to be the rock star, superstar, good guy.
All right, well, we're almost done the fight. But before we get to that, I want to ask you a question. At the beginning of this exchange between Mr. Negative and Miles, he asked Miles, or Miles says to Mr. Negative, you always have a choice, because Mr. Negative says that there's no choice. They just have to fight each other. Who's right in the situation as you get to this point so far before the end of the fight?
Who's right between the two?
Yeah, because I could kind of see it both ways. I could see what Mr. Negative's talking about. Like, he survived all of this because, like you said, he probably killed out the other villains. But for Miles, I think Miles is begging that question, is if it's worth it. Like, is it worth it to survive if you have to kill that many people?
Totally see where he's coming from, but I'm almost on the Mr. Negative side. It seems like he has remorse for a bunch of stuff. He doesn't seem like the guy we met in Spider-Man 1. He seems like he's reflected a bunch. I'm curious as where this goes, but if you're in survival mode and the only choice you have is to kill someone, I don't want to put myself in that situation at all. It sounds strange saying, but it makes
this is a video game. You don't have to.
It just makes sense to me that that's the route you have to go if you do want to survive.
All right, well, we're going to see who survives this fight right after this break, right here on AutoSave.
Miles.
No. I'm done listening to you. Losing my dad? It's not what's holding me back. I was the one doing that. But not anymore.
Do it. Please.
When you're out, find Spider-Man.
Do not let them escape!
like you said, Mr. Negative has really changed since the last time we saw him in Miles Morales. And it looks like that he's remorseful. He's asking for Miles to kill him. I guess he learned the real effect that he had on Miles and who Miles is, and how, Mr. Negative took his father away from him. So I guess like that's what he meant by he has everything he needs that he could have, like to finish the fight. It was that he chose to sacrifice himself. But then, like you said, Miles took the upper hand here and was just like, no, like, don't I don't think he was like, no, don't kill yourself. I think he's more like, no, don't kill yourself because you can help Spider-Man find me. You know what I mean? I think he was thinking like, he's not thinking first to kill Mr. Negative, and this is what I was getting to from the beginning. I don't think he wants to kill Mr. Negative. It's just kind of the emotion that gets to him. And luckily, he was thinking more straight when this moment kind of came up and just pushes Mr. Negative into the air in order to leave, and leaves himself there to take on all the hunters.
Thank God that Miles did that one. 2, I did call this, again, we don't really fully know what Lee's intentions are, but it seems like, at least Miles does, he's trusting him enough to say, go and get Peter. So
yeah,
I'm just going to say that I might have been right here. That's the flavor. And again, this is not like I played already, so I knew that Lee would do this, and that was my intention off the top of those earlier episodes. No, it's if you just watch Lee's demeanor when he meets Miles that first time, you can kind of see that I don't think he's the same guy that he was. And I think he is remorseful. And he was a good guy before that. He created Feast, like all that, like it's something that turned because of everything that happened with Norman. He got angry and that changed him. So I wasn't surprised, and here we are at this point. But now we literally, all our hopes of Miles being, saved, I guess, is if Lee helps him. So now the tables have completely turned here, where we thought Miles was going to kill Lee, and now he needs to entrust Lee that he's going to do the right thing.
And yeah, I don't know if Lee's going to do the right thing. I mean, he was still willing to kill the villains in order to survive, so I can't see it that way fully, but hopefully he will be able to, at least, I think now that he sees who Miles is, because this is also going to change their dynamic. Now he knows who Miles is, and he knows like the first effect that he had on Miles's life, because he took his father away from him. So we're getting the semi-resolution here, I think, at least emotionally, for Miles, because we are seeing that he is able to make that choice and not let his emotions get to him. There's probably still unresolved feelings, but I feel like we'll get to that as the story progresses, because there has to be another meeting between Miles and Mr. Negative. I feel like it will happen. Again, you said this was your favorite boss battle, or one of your top, because it was dynamic? Because for me, that's why I really enjoyed it. Or was it just because of being able to go into Miles's mind in that third part of the boss battle?
Yeah, it was dynamic. It was something I've never seen before. It was a different type of boss battle, which I enjoyed. It looked so much different. Like, they spent a lot of time on this. Obviously, it looked so like beautiful. And no, I guess how much I was invested in the story at this moment as well. It seemed like more than a boss battle, if that makes sense. Where you're like, okay, I gotta vanquish this guy. It's like you're teetering on the edge of like, what's gonna happen between these two. And then again, what everything that Miles is going through and everything that's in his head. Like, for me, I was like at the edge of my seat, wondering what was gonna happen. And that's all you can ask for in a boss fight like that, where it's not only just the toughness of defeating an enemy, but you're also wondering what's going to happen as well.
Now, we also need to talk about the symbiote, because that was a main feature in this episode. We're seeing that progression. We're seeing now it instead of giving these little hints that I really applaud Insomniac for putting in previous chapters, it's more blatant and open about how Peter feels, whether it's Peter deep down inside or the symbiote, and being vocal about that and showing that aggression as well during fight scenes. Another thing to note here is as you started off the chapter, you're noticing that the suit is actually getting more veiny and unnatural than it was before. Before it was very smooth, similar to Peter's suit, but now it's getting very unnatural, and it's kind of mimicking how Peter's emotions are just all over the place.
Yeah, and it's getting even strange. Like the suit looks different from even the Connor situation, right? So it's just like it's completely growing. Again, I don't think it's a stupid idea, but I'm not completely sold that Peter doesn't turn into Venom, because that would be the coolest, most unexpected, plot twist in gaming history if Miles had to fight Peter as Venom. That would be sick.
It would be sick. But we don't know who's Venom yet. Didn't make an appearance in this episode, so maybe the next one.
Yeah.
We're just waiting out. We're waiting out now. The countdown to Venom. When is Venom gonna arrive?
I hope soon.
Okay, let's I'm gonna say like maybe I think it has to be like 1 or 2 episodes. They can't have us holding out for that long.
I'm gonna say 2 episodes.
All right. Well, there you have it. You have it in. When will we see Venom? Well, hopefully it's soon, but you're still going to want to tune in to next episode because it's just getting juicy. So be sure to listen right here on AutoSave. AutoSave is produced and hosted by Nick Andrade and myself, Camille Salazar-Hadaway. The show is also produced by Dylan Wilson. Gameplay and additional elements provided by Chris Zeiser. Executive producer, Clayton Hansler. You can follow the show at AutoSave Podcast on Twitter and AutoSave Pod on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. You can subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to it right now. And if it happens to be Apple Podcasts, kindly leave us a rating and a review, but only if it's good. AutoSave is a Soda original hosted on the Soda Podcast Network.